This might be the worst slate in NBA for one day so far this season. 5 games on the slate heading into Tuesday, and every single one of these games might be a blowout. There's no doubt about it. Welcome, everyone, to Full Court Slash, presented by Slasher Sports. I'm Christian Rao with the Parlay King, the prop master, Billy Graves. Billy, we got some fun things to talk about, although these games are going to be really the head scratcher to me. We're going to still try and get some good ideas with some bets, some props, and just some overall thoughts on these games heading into Tuesday. But before you do that, please hit the subscribe button below. We are working on building this page up. We're back. Slasher Sports is back. If you've heard of us, guess what? We're not going anywhere anytime soon, ever again. But let's start off with the New York Knicks taking on the Brooklyn Nets. The New York Knicks 28-16, 14-8 on the road so far this year. And they're heading into Brooklyn. 14-29, 5-12 in their at their home court. They are 1-4 in their last 5. But the Knicks aren't that much better. They are 2-3 in their last 5 as well, coming off a 116-99 loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. However, the Nets have been pretty bad. We're talking about losing to the Clippers by 60. I mean, it was bad. They lost to the Lakers 102-101 the next night, and then losing to arguably the best team in the NBA, 127-101, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, the road trip for Brooklyn is over. They host the Knicks back in the Barclays Center on Tuesday night. Does the luck change for Brooklyn? There's a game time decision for Ben Simmons. Other than that, you got your normal injuries for these teams. What are you thinking, Billy?
First of all, you're right. This slate is ugly. It's so ugly. You got double-digit spreads left and right. You got one game that's very, very thin spread, but it wouldn't surprise me if either one of those teams won by 15 points. So I don't know what we even have here, but let's talk about Knicks and Nets, Christian. All right, this one's all about the Knicks' ability to impose their style of play, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see. The Nets suck, right? But first, let's talk about the money line. Minus 550. Yeah, right. So, I mean, listen, there's a reason these games are lopsided, man. And this one with the Knicks minus 550, there's no value in backing the Knicks. So what do? I mean, you're going to stack into a parlay? I mean, even then, there's no, it doesn't move the needle. It doesn't move the needle whatsoever. But the Nets at plus 410, look, I love an underdog story, but Brooklyn ain't got it. They don't have the personnel to pull off the upset. They're outmatched. They're outmanned across the board. Now, the spread's a little more intriguing. At minus 10.5, the Knicks have a real shot to cover. Their defensive intensity, their rebounding dominance led by Cat should overwhelm Brooklyn. But the risk here is the garbage time. The Knicks, they take their foot off the gas, the Nets might sneak in a cover, man. But based on these teams, the way they match up, I'm leaning Knicks minus 10.5. But for the total of 225.5, and this one feels sharp, man. The Knicks are a top-tier defensive team, and the Nets are struggling to put up points on the board consistently. If I had to pick, I'm leaning under, especially with both teams managing injuries and depth. But one final note. Keep an eye on the rebound-related props, all right? This game sets up for a strong interior performance from New York, so there could be value in lines for players like Karl Anthony Towns or even Josh Hart if his rebounding totals look reasonable. So my final takeaway, skip the money line, lean Knicks minus 10.5, and consider the under if the pace feels slower out of the gate.
Well, if you are going to take the minus 10.5, it would be 0-2 so far this year between these two games, but doesn't mean that's going to change. In the game one, the Knicks beat the Nets by 2, 124-122. That was earlier in November. They played on back-to-back, basically. They played 2 days later, and the Knicks won by 10, 114-104. We're going to get game 3 in this one. There's not a back-to-back like there was in November. Game 4, the final game of the series, is not till April, so this is the last time the Knicks will see the struggling Nets team until spring. I'm with you. I think that you take care of the under on this one. I think that you're 1-1 in past games, by the way, if you're going to take under 220, and that was the last game they had of this 2 matchups. And I'm with you. I think you take the spread as well. I think the Knicks are just too much better. I think they're just too much of a better team compared to the Nets, and I think they learned some lessons over the last couple games. Although they did lose by 17 to the T-Wolves, they did take the Sixers to overtime when they shouldn't have done that. I think there's a lot of adjustments that still need to be made. Karl Anthony Towns wasn't at 100%. I think that changes now when they head into Brooklyn. This is the perfect time to do it. I'm with you. I'm taking the Knicks as well, minus 10.5, and I'm with you on that under. I think that they take care of it. This is an easy sweep for me. And to be honest with you, to get full value, I would not be afraid to P2 that one, Billy, whatsoever.
No, you're right. I love a good P2, especially when the odds are something crazy like they are right now. Listen, money lines like this don't move the needle at all when it comes to a straight up bet. I don't want to pay $50 to win 10, right? So let's get some value out of it. Get something that you think is going to be just nearly a guarantee. And we know that there's no such thing as a guarantee in any sport, really. But I mean, this is really good odds, for you to, match up with, hell, make it a P3, find somebody who's got a good matchup and make it a P3. Hell with it. Find a good defense versus position matchup. Find somebody who just out rebounds the other. Find somebody who maybe isn't your primary scorer, facilitator, or rebounder, and think, what's his matchup look like? I mean, we got all day to do it. And that's the caveat here, guys. We're talking about leans. We're talking about angles. We're going to lay down these bets later on in the day when we know more about the injury report, when we know more about the starting lineups. You never know. After the weekend, who's going to get scratched, right? We just don't know. So we have to put our ear to the ground and hear what everybody's doing. But right now, these are my leans. These are our angles, Christian. And I think right now they look pretty good.
You messed with any player props in this game, or are we saving that till the end now?
No, man, I got nothing on this one. It actually is something that, we have our tier system. We have our models, and we got automatic disqualifiers. And this one just doesn't have anything that stands out as a heavy lean. And that's what I want to talk about on this show is heavy leans from our point of view and from our models' points of view. But yeah, it's not the best one to look at. The best thing that we can do is maybe look forward and see if any players get scratched and bump somebody up into an uptick of minutes. And that's always, prime location to hit props as well. When nothing stands out from the all playing fields are level time frame, find somebody's got an uptick in minutes and see what kind of matchup he's got.
Probably the closest spread of the evening heading into Tuesday. The Orlando Magic going up north to take on the Toronto Raptors in the Scotiabank Arena. Last game they've taken on, this is the second game of the series, by the way. Magic won 106-97. That happened on the 3rd of January, just a couple weeks ago. You got Jet Howard and Gary Harris currently a game-time decision for the Magic. Chris Boucher, game-time decision for the Raptors. I'm seeing minus 2.5 right now for the Magic. That's what I'm looking at. I don't know if that's what you got as well. But the Raptors right now, 10-32. They're 9-13 at home. Obviously, a rebuilding year. They continue to rebuild. RJ Barrett being one of those guys. Scotty Barnes being one of those guys to build around their core. Barrett's leading the team right now with just under 23 points per game. He's shooting just under 47% from the field. I'd like to see more from him and Scotty Barnes, but there's a lot more to discuss when it comes to this Toronto team. I think they're on the right path. They've still got plenty to go. On the flip side, Orlando Magic, I'd like to see what they can do because they're 7th in the Eastern Conference right now, sitting at 23-21. But I feel like there's a lot more. Speaking of the Raptors, there's a lot more to be seen from this Magic team. With that being said, they have had struggled over their last 5, 1-4 in their last 5, including a 13-point loss just the other night against the Denver Nuggets. Raptors are 2-3 in their last 5, but as we mentioned, they're a rebuilding team. Orlando's only a half game back, or really actually they're tied with Atlanta for the Southeast. I know we talk about divisions too much, but it's always fun to bring that in there. Yeah. What is your thoughts on this game? Because it's probably the closest spread of Tuesday night.
Yeah, and if it was 9 points between these two teams, it would still be the closest spread. But we're looking at a couple of teams that just recently have taken on the Boston Celtics and beaten them as massive underdogs. So this is an interesting matchup, and it's probably – listen, Christian, it's got a lot of layers, all right? And it starts with the Magic's upside. And we can start with the money line if you want. The Magic are sitting at minus 166 last time I checked, and honestly, there's some value in that. They've got the more consistent offense, a solid defensive identity, and the momentum coming into this one, I think. On the flip side, the Raptors plus 140 is tempting, especially given their home court advantage, but I'm not sure they've got the firepower to keep up for 48 minutes. I'd lean Magic money line if you're looking to play it safe, but on the spread, To me, it gets fun. The Magic favorite at -3.5. The last time I checked, it's tightened up since, because you saw it at -2.5.
Yeah.
So who knows what it's going to look like at game time. But to me, even -3.5 was a reasonable number, given how well they've been playing. They've covered in 6 of their last 8, I think, and they match up really well against a Raptors team that struggles in the half court. So on the Raptors side, if you think this stays tight and low, there's a case to be made for taking them at plus 3.5, but there is a case to take them on the money line. Personally, I am leaning Magic -3.5, but it's not my strongest play of the night. All right, so for the total at 215.5, it feels like a defensive battle waiting to happen. Right? That's obviously 215.5. I mean, it's definitely a slow-paced game, but both teams rank in the top half of the league when it comes to defensive efficiency, and neither team plays at a blistering pace. So I would favor the under here, even with the Raptors trying to slow things down and make it a grind. I think that's what's going to happen. But my spotlight here for the props, Christian, this is where we got something solid. I feel our prop bet of the night across any game is going to be on Paolo Banchero's PRA. This guy's been a walking stat sheet, and he's in a prime spot against Toronto's front court. The Raptors struggle to defend versatile forwards who can create their own shot and facilitate. If his PRA line stays in the 33.5 to 35.5 range, I'm hammering the over. So final thoughts, lean Magic, -3.5, favor the under, and Banchero's PRA is a spotlight play of the night. This game might not be the most exciting offensively, but there's a lot of exciting value for bettors.
Yeah, if you're looking at the last 2 games the Raptors played at home, they have defeated the Boston Celtics 110-97 and the Golden State Warriors 104-101. If you do that math, both of those are under the 216, 217 over-unders, if you will. This is the second game of the series. Magic won that game 106-97, again, under that point total that is giving right now. So a lot of things are leading towards that, plus the slasher is giving you those analytics as well. Lots to keep in mind with this game heading into Tuesday night, and I'm with you. I think the only thing that I know it's not your strongest bet, and I think that it's really safe to say that Toronto playing at home and having 2, dare I say, upsets against Boston and Golden State in their last 2 home matchups make me think maybe considering the money line for Toronto is a good bet, good thing to keep in mind. So I know you kind of mentioned that. I think that's where I would lean as well. But I love that player prop. Let's keep that player prop in mind, because that is probably going to be the highlight one of the night. All right, we got more Jimmy Butler. We saw him coming in after his suspension. He's back. They're going to be home again, taking on the Portland Trailblazers, and we're back to crazy spreads yet again. The Heat are 10.5-point favorites last time I checked, with an over-under of 220. I don't know what you're checking right now. I'll let you know, but the Blazers 1-4 in their last 5. The Heat 2-3 in their last 5, just coming off a 128-107 win at home against the San Antonio Spurs. Jimmy Butler, this will be his 3rd game back. Interested to see if we see more from him. We're starting to see his minutes uptick, and we're starting to see if really the biggest question is he going to be happy there, right? It didn't seem like we saw that over the last couple of games, or maybe he's just going to continue to put on a show until the trade deadline comes. I'm really, the Jimmy Butler saga is just certainly interesting to me. We'll see how it carries on. Regardless of the fact, Portland 14-28, 5-16 on the road this year against the Miami Heat team that has a winning record at home at the Casey Center. So I think I said that wrong. Either way, looking into the matchup here, this is an interesting one overall. Miami trying to continue and get out of the play-in games of the Eastern Conference, get above the 8th seed that they're at right now. Do they continue that with Portland? Do they get back on the winning ways? And where do you see a player like Jimmy Butler? Is he possibly in your player props tonight?
Well, listen, man, I don't know what's going on, what they put in the water down in Miami, but this Jimmy Butler situation reminds me a lot of the Jazz Chisholm situation with the Marlins. And I keep drawing these parallels, and I don't know, man. Are we going to see Jimmy Butler in an NBA championship in a couple of seasons, just from getting sent to the heavy favorite? I don't know. We're going to see. But this is a really tough spot for the Blazers, man. The numbers back it up. Yeah. First of all, looking at that money line, -650, it's a no-go unless you're using it as a parlay. Again, not going to move the needle. But Portland at 470, yeah, payout looks nice, but this is not the spot to back them. Between the Heat's elite defense and the Blazers' brutal travel schedule, I don't see an upset brewing here. That spread I've got -11.5. It's a big number, but Miami's style of play works against teams like Portland. The Heat thrive on methodical possessions and physical defense, and they'll exploit the Blazers' lack of depth. That said, the travel factor is key here. They're going corner to corner here, man. Portland's coming off a cross-country flight, and that fatigue is only going to hurt them in a game where Miami's already looking to grind them into hamburger. All right, I'm leaning Heat minus 11.5, even with the risk of a late backdoor cover. For that total, I've got it at 219.5. Feels like a little bit high for this matchup. Miami's pace is a little slower, while it usually keeps games closer to the line. It's not going to help Portland's legs after that kind of trip. Unless the Heat run up the score early, I'm favoring the under. This feels like a game where both teams are going to struggle to hit big scoring numbers. But as for props, I know we're spotlighting Paolo Banchero tonight, but I like to keep an eye on Bam Adebayo's rebound line. If it's set at 10.5 or below, I'm hammering the over because Portland's interior defense is soft, and Bam, he should control the glass. Skip the money line unless you're parlaying. Lean Heat 11.5 and favor the under 219.5. Portland's travel, Miami's defense is going to dictate this one.
Saturday and Sunday, the Trailblazers played at home in the Moda Center in Portland against the Houston Rockets and the Chicago Bulls. Then they had to fly on Sunday fly either Sunday night or Monday to get over to Miami, as you mentioned, to play a basketball game against the Heat. And obviously they're going to be starting off some sort of a road trip as well. So I'm with you. I think you definitely have to lean towards that. 119-98 was the last time they faced off earlier this month when the Heat went to Portland. So 217, right around that over-under. With that huge, crazy travel schedule, I'm with you. I'd slam that under as well. And always like Bam rebounds when you're talking about overs, when you get possibly him with a double-double or potentially a triple-double. So I'm with you.
Are there two further apart teams in the league than Portland and Miami?
No, I don't think so. I think that's as far as you can get right now.
Yeah. Without going to Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, there's no Hawaii team just yet. No Hawaii team just yet.
Just yet.
All right. So we're still waiting. Is Joel Embiid back? No, I don't think we have him back yet. I think we're still waiting on Joel Embiid. Is he out still?
I think he's out still.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's going to be out for quite some time because, I mean, we're seeing him. Do you have any minutes for him right now? No, he's out.
No, man. I think he's out until like the 28th or 29th.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Shams put out a report saying that he's got that swelling. He's going to get reevaluated in about a week. That's right. Okay, so let's dig into this one. The 76ers taking on the Denver Nuggets. And this is probably why you're seeing Mr. Game Time Decision. Well, in this case, he's Mr. Out. Joel Embiid is not going to play. He's out 7 to 10 days. The Philadelphia 76ers, I'm looking at a 14-point underdog in this one. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing, but that's absolutely insane against the Denver Nuggets. I mean, you talked about this game 2 years ago. There's no way this spread ever happens. Talk about the process. I think the process is starting to fall apart, Billy. Either way, the Denver Nuggets and the Philadelphia 76ers taking on. Denver at home is 12-8 so far this season. They're not having the best year either. They're fourth in the Western Conference. That's still good enough to make a playoff run. I have a feeling they're going to be adding before the trade deadline. I'm really excited to see what Denver does. Maybe they get into that Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. If you were,
was just about to
discussing that. Never know. Regardless, in this one, let's break it down. Sixers, Nuggets. And this one should be. I mean, dare I say, is this a good time to play the underdog with super money lines, or you think the Sixers are well deserved of this 13.5, 14-point spread?
Man, I think this is shaping up to be a long process for Philly tonight. With Embiid out, they're going to step into the toughest road environments in the league, and the odds reflect it. So Denver at minus 700, completely unplayable. Again, maybe a parlay piece, but you're going to have to stack up a lot to make that even move anything. And even then, I mean, it barely moves the needle. So Philly at plus 500 might look attractive on paper, but without their MVP on the floor, it's hard to make a case for him pulling off the upset. So I'm passing on that money line. But for the spread, minus 12, it's a big number. But Denver has the tools to cover it. They've been dominant at home. They excel at exploiting mismatches. And without Embiid's presence in the paint, the Joker should have a monster game. And the Nuggets' depth is probably going to wear Philly down as the game progresses. I'm leaning Nuggets minus 12. It's a big line, but given the circumstances, I do think it's justified. For the total, we're looking at 227.5, and I'm favoring the under. Theme of the night, Philly's offense is probably going to struggle to keep pace with their star. And, Denver doesn't, need to push the tempo in this matchup. Unless the Sixers have an outlier shooting night, the game feels like it's going to fall short of the total. So props-wise, there's one sneaky look that I've got my eye on. All right, I'm looking at Gershon Yabusele, his rebound prop. It's very sneaky. He's questionable with a knee injury. But if he suits up, and I do have some minutes for him, the Sixers will be desperate for front court help. With Andre Drummond also iffy, Philly's big man rotations razor thin. If Yabusalay's line is around 5.5 rebounds, he's worth a look. Remember that, 5.5. In Embiid's absence, Yabusele has hit the over in 6 of the 8 last games that he's played in. It's sneaky, but the opportunity's there if he gets the minutes. My final thoughts on that, though, skip the money line, lean Nuggets -12, favor the under, and give Yabusele's rebounds a hard look if he's active. This one's all about Denver controlling the game.
This is going to be the first game of the series between the Sixers and the Nuggets. The second game comes just 10 days later, January 31st. So the Nuggets might get away with facing the Sixers twice this season without Joel Embiid. Like, there's a really strong chance of that happening. And they might not get Paul George either. Paul George is a game time decision in this one. Embiid's not the only one that's banged up on this team. There's a reason why they're on a 6-game losing streak, and this team is falling apart very quickly. But still, what's crazy is they're still 11th in the Eastern Conference. And what's wild is they probably aren't going to be sellers at the deadline because there's still probably a good chance because of the other teams below them that are obviously tanking. Not the Sixers who are. The Sixers just hurt. There's teams below them who are obviously tanking.
Yeah.
The Sixers are probably going to still find a way to get in the play-in tournament, which is absolutely insane. Speaking of a guy, a spot like a 6-game losing streak, the second largest active losing streak in the NBA. You want to know what the first is? The biggest losing streak in the NBA? Well, that's our final game of the night. That's the Washington Wizards, who face on the Los Angeles Lakers, who the Wizards are currently on a 10-game losing streak, a 10-game slide. Absolutely wild. They are tanking. There's no doubt about that. They're looking to try and get Cooper Flagg or someone in that NBA lottery, in that draft. They're hoping for that number 1 pick. And they're not really focusing on a team like the Los Angeles Lakers. 6-35. They are 1-17 on the road this season. 1 win. And let me tell you, it's not at the Staples Center. So, the Crypto.com arena. How dare I say the Staples Center?
Yeah, straighten that up.
Yeah, interesting, right? The Lakers, as you have probably expected on this one, both LeBron James and Anthony Davis are considered game time decisions. To be completely honest, if they didn't play in this one, wouldn't shock me whatsoever because they're facing the Washington Wizards, Billy.
And the line wouldn't move a bit.
Wouldn't move a bit in this one. Regardless of the case, Washington, I'm looking at 12.5 or 13-point spread, wherever you see your bets right now. And I think that's a fair assessment. If I'm the Lakers, this is a perfect time to figure out my team, try and get your defense back in the right shape, and get to deciding what you need to do heading into the trade deadline. This is a perfect time to do it. You have 2 games against the Wizards, this one on Tuesday night and one on January 30th before the trade deadline. What a perfect time to face a struggling team to finally figure out, get some of these younger players, some backcourt players, finally figure out what they need to do before heading into the trade deadline on February 6th. What's your thoughts of this game?
Well, this is another one of those statement games. So do you really want to rest guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron James? I don't know. We talked about the Celtics had their statement game the other night, and then before that, who was it? Was it Miami that needed their statement game?
Phoenix, right?
Phoenix. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, this is a statement game in itself, but listen, this matchup is about as one-sided as it gets, and the numbers back it up. Lakers at -1100 at the time I looked at it. Again, unplayable. The Wizards +700 are a long shot for a reason. They've shown no ability to stop teams defensively, especially on the road. We're skipping the money line altogether. The spread's a different story, though. -14.5, it even feels a little bit generous. The Lakers have the tools to cover this. They're scoring over 115 points at home per game, while the Wizards are allowing over 122 points per game on the road. If the Lakers stay focused and don't let up late, the Lakers 14.5 feels, again, generous. It feels like the right side to be on. For the total, 231 feels slightly inflated to me. While the Wizards defense will likely struggle, the Lakers defense has been strong, and I don't see Washington scoring enough to push this thing over. I'd lean under. It's not a lock, but as far as, talking props, if there's one worth considering, and there's not one worth considering in this game, I would still play around with Anthony Davis for a double-double. Like, depending on odds, all right, his rebound matchup grade is moderate, But with his rebounding average of almost 12 per game and 37 projected minutes, he's in a strong position to hit double digits on the boards. The Wizards' interior defense is weak, and Davis should dominate the glass pretty early. If the odds for his double-double – say that again? Did you say something?
Nope, all you.
Must have been the voices in my head.
You were hearing things. Yeah, yes, sir.
I am hearing things. If the odds for this double-double are reasonable, this is the caveat here. I'm going to say better than 200. Minus 200. It's worth a look. Don't do anything beyond that. It's just be mindful of the potential for reduced minutes in a blowout, because we just said 14.5 points could be, pretty generous. I mean, it's very generous. If the Lakers want to make that statement, this is a team to do it against. And those minutes, you might not see LeBron, you might not see Ant Davis in the fourth quarter. So luckily, rebounds and points, they kind of go hand in hand. A lot of putbacks could happen. Ant Davis could do this. A double-double, minus 200 or better. Parlay it up with something. Just take your pick. Just do a low points total for another starter, because he's probably going to get it.
Is this something you'd consider here? The fact that they're obviously playing the Wizards tonight. We're talking 7:30 tip-off. This is an interesting game here. Do you think that the fact that they play Boston on Thursday, that changes the fact of what they feel about the minutes from LeBron and Anthony Davis? Oh, and by the way, not only do they play Boston on Thursday, they got to go to Golden State on Saturday.
You always want to look down the road and see what games are coming up. I, on the other hand, think that they want to use a game like the Wizards game to get on the same page and build some kind of continuity that they can take into Boston, that they can take into Oakland. So I don't know. It just depends on what they're thinking about. Are they thinking about resting their old guys? Or are they thinking about, let's regroup and make this the dress rehearsal?
That's a good point. We got any more things tonight? We rocking with some new segments, or are we saving that for another time?
Now, I'll say that for another time. This slate sucks.
All right, good call. I like that. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. What do you think about this crappy slate? Because it really is. If you notice, the main theme of tonight, if you want to take anything from it, is take the under. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing to take. If you didn't take anything else from this show, take the under. Have fun, bet responsibly. Leave a comment in the description below. Hit subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time right here on Full Court Slash.